Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to another episode of Phoenix Wright's Attorney Trials and Tribulations. In the last episode, all you really need to know is that we are calling up Luke Atmey to the stand to testify because we believe that he was also in the room when Rhonda Light supposedly murdered Kane Bullard, but obviously Rhonda Light did not murder Kane Bullard. We think Luke Atmey did it, so now we're gonna go cross-examine him and figure out the truth. Let's go! October 14th, 12:14 p.m., District Court, Defendant Lobby, number 4. My sis? I could have sworn I heard Mia's voice. So then, she's still alive, inside your heart. Nicky boy! Oh, Miss Delight. Is it true that Detective is the real killer? To be honest, we don't have any definite proof. But he's the only one who could have done it. But wasn't he at Lorelei Taylor that night? Not to mention, we don't even know his motive. I mean, why would Detective Atmey want to kill Kane Bullard? Oops, it's almost time. Better get back to the courtroom. I need to find some solid proof, and it's gotta happen sooner rather than later. October 14th, 12:21 p.m., District Court, Court number 6. Now then, this court is back in session. Mr. Luke Atmey, please take the stand. Well, how do you do, sir, lawyer? I never would have thought to see you acting so recklessly. I couldn't let them hand on your verdict just yet. Not when it would have given you your perfect alibi. An alibi by the name of Master Mask. I'm sorry, I'm afraid even the great Luke Atmey has no idea what you mean. Of course, I have been in the next courtroom ever since 10 o'clock this morning. I'm afraid there's no way I could know what's been going on in here. You've been in the defendant's seat all day long, correct? Being tried as Master Mask. Indeed, it's truly child's play to fool the ignorant masses. Not only did the poor fools ask me to protect their valuables, they even gave me a generous reward upon returning their own property to them. Take this red diamond ring that sparkles upon my divine finger, for example. So you continue to insist that you are, in fact, Master Mask? Of course. Very well then, Luke Atmey, let's begin with this simple question. On October 12th at 1 a.m., Kane Bullard was murdered. Where were you at that time? One without knowledge lacks even the knowledge that he should be ashamed of himself. But don't worry, I will not hold it against you, Sir Judge. Thanks. All right, Mr. Atmey, the night of the murder. Speak. We're listening. As you wish, Sir Prosecutor. The alibi. I was stealing the urn as Master Mask, just as I announced I would. I had more than enough time to prepare. It was a pathetically easy job. A photograph contains no words, but in this case, one turned out to be my witness. The time at which the camera captured Master Mask was the same time as the murder. It seems the main point of discussion will be the photo of the crime scene. Everything else up until now was all a part of his plan. There has to be a secret to this picture as well. Even the great Master Mask cannot be in two places at once. Now then, if you'll excuse me. I have a verdict to receive. Unfortunately, Mr. Atmey, we still have to do your cross-examination. A fool is too foolish to know that he is a fool. I think he's trying to say that you're full of it, Nick. The only thing that's full of it is his alibi. I was stealing the urn as Master Mask just as I announced I would. I had more than enough time to prepare. It was a pathetically easy job. A photograph contains no words, but in this case, one turned out to be my witness. So by photograph, you mean this piece of evidence here, is that correct? Indeed it is. That is it. The very thing that proves I committed the crime. The very thing that proves you committed the crime. When you think about it, it's really odd. You say that almost as if you had this picture taken on purpose. It was simply caught by the very camera that he had set up. We all have days like that. Indeed, it turned out that there was no such thing as the perfect crime after all. Life is truly an ironic thing, a sad blue melody. It looks like I better gather more information for now. If he's truly the killer, there's gotta be something phony in that photo. The time in which the camera captured Master Mess was at the same time as the murder. About the camera that took this photograph. Oh, come now, it's all too clear what you're thinking. Huh? You think I altered the timestamp on the photograph, don't you? I'm afraid that's impossible. The camera was set up by Lorley Taylor, and on top of that, it was Lorley Taylor's staff that printed this picture's data. Unfortunately for the defense, there's no way that picture could have been altered. I see. It looks like I better find something else that could be suspicious. So, this alibi is false? It has to be, or he couldn't have killed Mr. Bullet at KB Security. But I'm not really spotting anything unusual. There are two possibilities. Either the master mask in the photo is a fake, or the photo itself is. Stealing the earnings. I believe Adrian Andrews hired you at one point. That's right. That was over 20 days ago, if I'm not mistaken. You sent the calling card to Lorley Taylor 10 days before the heist. That would mean you sent out the card after you began your security watch, right? Indeed, there was no reason why I couldn't do both jobs at once. It was the perfect opportunity to steal my latest target. I see. You truly are evil, aren't you? Yes, evil is what I am.
Hey, Nick, isn't there something odd about this? Detective Atmey was always proud of his ace detective skills, right? But if the urn was stolen from Lorley Taylor while he was the only one watching it, he'd have no way to maintain his perfect ace detective persona.
You know, that's true. It is kind of odd. So this photograph is the proof, correct? Indeed it is. And the man in the photo is certainly wearing a mask. That is why I am called Master Mask. But conveniently, that also means that there is no way to tell who this really is. What do you mean? Ha! Are you saying that this is not, in fact, Luke Atmey? That it could be an accomplice dressed up as Master Mask could create an alibi? Oh, what an interesting idea. Are you saying that I, Lone Wolf Luke, had an accomplice? If Luke Atmey was at KB Security during the murder, then the Master Mask in this picture has to be a fake.
Then there really was an accomplice.
But right now, I have no idea who it was.
I don't have any idea right now either.
Baseless objections are just what this guy wants. There's gotta be another way, and I'm gonna find it. So by photograph, you mean this piece of evidence here, is that correct? Indeed it is. That is it. That is the very thing that proves I committed the crime. The very thing that proves you committed the crime. Surely even you understand by now. Lorley Taylor provided the camera. There's no way I could have tampered with it. That means I could not have killed Kane Bullard unless I had an accomplice. Come on, think long and hard about that night. The basement warehouse, and this picture that supposedly captures it. It's gotta be here. Isn't there something funny about this picture? Are you implying that this picture is a fake? You bet I am. There's definitely something strange about this picture. We took a look around the basement warehouse that night before the theft took place, and there's something in this photo that doesn't match my memory of that night. Very well then, let's hear what you have to say. What about this photograph do you find funny? The funny part is right here. Why this is a blood stain. Oh, blood! Now this case is getting interesting. Not exactly. This stain is actually pink paint. Oh, just paint. And peach colored at that. From blood to peaches, the judge sure loves going on his wild tangents. The problem with this photograph is not the paint. The problem is, when you consider the layout of the basement warehouse, it turns out that something that should be there is nowhere to be seen. Well, Mr. Wright, what is supposed to be in this picture instead of the paint stains? The supervisor of the treasure exhibit stated the following. Well, there's a good reason for that. On the day of the crime around noon, that golden statue just happened to arrive from the mountain training hall. I realized that the statue would be the perfect size for covering up paint stains. That's why I put it where you first saw it. I myself was there the night the theft took place, and saw the statue in that spot. If this picture was truly taken on that night, then that statue should have been there. But when I went there the day after the theft, that statue of the old bag, was sitting in the corner. Maybe it was somehow pushed there accidentally. Your Honor, this statue is slightly larger than yourself and quite heavy. It would take more than an accidental push to move it that distance. Ha! In that case, can you prove it? Can you give us the rhyme and reason as to why that statue was moved that night? Can you do it, Nick? Never mind who moved it. The real question is, why did they move it? Well, Mr. Wright, I hope you are prepared with your answer. Now then, who was the one that moved that golden statue on the night of the crime? Mask to mask? The one who moved the statue is none other than Luke Atmey. Come now, sir lawyer. There you go again on one of your strange delusions. Mr. Wright, what basis do you have for your strange delusions? It's very simple. The witness was the only one in the basement warehouse that night. That is indeed very simple. However, why would I want to move a heavy golden statue? The reason for moving the golden statue, here's where our battle really begins. Well, Mr. Wright, what reason did the witness have to move that statue? The reason can be found here in this photograph. Look at me. You pretended to be Master Mask, to create an alibi by showing you were at Lordly Taylor that night. But this photograph contains a single, fatal flaw. If the statue had been there, your lie would be exposed like cheap film at a drugstore. That is why you moved the statue. A single fatal flaw? Interesting theory. Please enlighten us. Just where in this picture does the lie exist? The timestamp? Naturally, the lie in this photo is the timestamp. What do you mean? I'll tell you exactly what I mean. On the night in question, Luke Atmey went to KP Security and murdered Kane Bullard. Therefore, it's obvious. It would have been impossible for him to have been at Lordly Taylor at this time. But what does that have to do with the statue being moved? Remember, if you will, Your Honor. When was this statue placed besides the warehouse door? Well, the statue was taken down to the warehouse on the day of the crime, and it was placed there in order to cover up the paint. Exactly. Luke Atmey had already decided on the time when he was going to kill the victim, and so, in order to create an alibi for that time, he took this picture days before the murder took place. What the? Of course, the statue hadn't yet been brought down to the basement warehouse yet. Oh! So, on the day of the crime, Mr. Atmey must have been quite nervous. As nervous as a long-tailed cat in a rocking chair factory, so to speak. Why? Because something that wasn't supposed to be there had been brought down and placed where it wasn't supposed to be. And that is why Luke Atmey had to move the statue on the night of the murder. He did it to make the room match with the way it had been in this photo. Gah! Order, Mr. Atmey, is this true? One moment, Your Honor. Have you forgotten this? What's that? The data for the basement warehouse computer. According to this, the camera did indeed go off the night of the crime. It's true that the camera had been set up by the Lordly Taylor staff. However, the program used to manage that data was yours. That alone would have allowed you to tamper with the data. Order, Mr. Godot, what is the meaning of this? Good do! I warned you about making me wait. Now put that coffee down! My 11th cup. I've promised to drink no more than 17 during a trial, which means I'm still good till the last drop. However, the defense has a very good point. A good point? So what? We are all but travelers on a road of infinite points.
I think you've got your points mixed up with your other points.
So you say that this photograph was taken ahead of time, and that the statue was moved in order to make it match. That's a very interesting idea, however. There's one point that can't be denied. Which is that it's only a possibility. Men that are trapped by the chains of maybe can never reach their dreams. That's very true! No, wait, don't fall for that, Your Honor! Hey, Mr. Damask. Yes? If there's no funny business in your actions as Master Damask, there should be no problem with you telling us your strategy, so let's hear it. Yes, please provide this court with your testimony about your plan to steal the sacred urn. I first received the request from Lord Taylor about 20 days ago. The urn was placed in a box, and Zavari! It was then sent to the warehouse. Hence, I was actually unable to see the urn for myself until the day of the crime. I knew it was an extremely valuable treasure, so I sent my card 10 days beforehand. I then handled security by myself to ensure that my crime would go smoothly. At last, I held the urn in my hands for the first time at 1 a.m. on October 12th.
That's pretty much all the stuff we've heard before, isn't it?
Yeah, but we will find the truth hidden in the nuggets of new information he gave. Witness, you're sure there are no mistakes this time? Zavari. Very well then, Mr. Wright, you may begin your cross-examination. Okay. Mr. Atmey, if you really are Master Mask, then you also wrote this calling card, correct? But of course. Is there a problem with that calling card? Allow me to read a passage from the calling card that Master Mask had written. Take good care of the speckled urn. Now, the speckled here surely refers to the pink pattern on the sacred urn. Yes, that is true, but so what? Truth be told, there is no way that Master Mask could have known about this pattern. What do you mean? This pink spotted pattern on the urn is actually nothing more than paint stains. Paint stains? And these stains did not appear until after the urn had been taken to Lord Taylor. I'm not finding this joke to be very funny, Mr. Trite. The day that the sacred urn was taken to the warehouse, the urn was broken due to human error, or should I say an error-prone human. And that's when the pink paint got on the urn. Ugh, you can't be serious. And yet this calling card clearly mentions the paint pattern. Which means Detective Atmey had seen this urn long before the crime ever took place. In fact, he saw it when this fake photo was taken. And because this photo is a fake, your alibi for the night of the murder no longer holds water. Witness, do you have anything to say for yourself? Right, that did it. He's broken.
Nick, I think it's still a little early for a victory pose.
Huh? You've got to be kidding me. Ha! It's so sad. No one has any conviction these days. Conviction, you say? Yesterday we all decided unanimously that this man was Master Mask. And now we're calling him a murderer. You don't think we're being a tad fickle? That's a good point. No way! Don't fall for that too, Your Honor! You say that Luke Atmey was the one who killed Kane Bullard? Then let me ask you this. Why would he do that? An excellent point. Motive, Mr. Wright, motive! Mind you, my merry murderer's motive manifest?
Nick, he's getting a second wind!
If he prepared an alibi and pinned his crime on Rhonda Light as you say, he must have had a very strong motive for murder. The only one with any motive we've seen is Rhonda Light. Isn't that right, detective? Indeed. According to my own research, the boy's motive is clear. Without a motive, it's clearly impossible to prove guilt in a murder case. Now then, maybe you can enlighten us to what the defendant's motives were. Thank you, sir, old-timer. They're doing everything they can to make Ron look suspicious. Despite our lack of hard information, this may be our only chance. I, Luke Atmey, had no points of contact with the victim whatsoever. Kane Bullard decided to investigate Master Mask and simply mistook who he was. It was Mr. Bullard who wrote the blackmail letter and sent it to Ron Delight. And it was again Mr. Bullard who harbored a grudge against Mr. Delight for his betrayal. Mr. Bullard's mistake is quite excusable. The defendant truly believes he is Master Mask. That is why Mr. Delight saw it fit to kill Kane Bullard. Truly a tragedy. So the victim, Kane Bullard, blackmailed the defendant? This is the blackmail letter found in the defendant's apartment. A handwriting test confirms that Mr. Bullard was indeed the one who wrote the letter. What? Very well, Mr. Wright. Begin your cross-examination.
I, Luke Atmey, had no points of contact with the victim whatsoever. Kane Bullard decided to investigate Master Mask and simply mistook who he was. How?
Mistook? That's right, mistook. From the Old Norse mistaka, meaning to take in error. That wasn't what I meant. Just who did the victim mistake Master Mask to be? Why, the answer is obvious. Ron Delight, of course. Boy, I'd like to wipe that smug look off this guy's face. Why would the victim mistake the defendant for Master Mask? Don't you already know that? Zavari! Take a look at this newspaper. Oh-ho! That's the famous Tear of Emanon, a magnificent jewel. That photo shows a magnificent detective as well, does it not? Furthermore, it also shows an ugly guard, namely the defendant. The defendant? The victim clearly misread this article and, Zavari, he got the wrong impression. The impression that this ugly security guard was in fact Master Mask. I see.
That was an unusually reasonable deduction.
Oh, shoot! Oh! Red Diamond! What? Mind if I ask you a few questions, Detective Atmey? Well, if it's just a few, I guess it's all right. When you said that this letter was addressed to Ron Delight, I couldn't help but notice one major contradiction. Contradiction? I don't know where a walking contradiction like you gets off saying things like that. You're one to talk. At times like these, men are made to express themselves with their fists. Why don't you show us what you got there, Junior? Indeed! Time to man up, Mr. Wright! Show us the contradicting evidence and the content of the blackmail letter. Take a good look at this newspaper clipping. It contains a picture of the Tear of Emanon, the stolen jewel. What about it? The problem is this jewel's color. Color? I'm not much for discussing color myself. According to the clipping, the color of the stolen jewel was blue. However, in the blackmail letter, a totally different jewel is mentioned. I'll take that red diamond you received the other day. Red? Which means, the red diamond described in the blackmail letter is not the Tear of Emanon that Master Mask stole at all. And your point is, Mr. Wright? So you were trying to say that this blackmail letter was intended for someone else. That is what you're trying to say, right, Wright? That is what you're trying to say, right, Mr. Wright? Well, that is what you're trying to say, right, Nick? Yes. This is who Kane Bullard was actually blackmailing. Alright, we are actually going to stop right here. I actually skipped the point where I wanted to initially stop, so we're going to stop right here, right now. Thank you guys ever so much for watching. That's it for this episode. Roll the end card.
Objection! You haven't hit like and subscribe yet! Hold it! You forgot to ring the bell to get notified whenever I upload! Take that! Click here to watch more of my videos! Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye-bye!